Okay, now, for those of you that want a little bit more refined finish,
Yes.
you'll take your masonite panels and you'll want to put canvas on them. Okay. Now the boards that I showed you here are canvas covered. Canvas covered. Now, when you go to the art store, there are some higher quality. And the Centurion oil prime panels are nice. And the canvas, unlike with the cheap ones, this is just a cotton duck. One finish on it. It's kind of, you know, as you paint on it, you can feel the cardboard inside sucking the paint out of your paint. This one here is a canvas that is sealed with leaded oil. And that's really the route you want to go. Why? For a couple reasons. One, the leaded based finishes like this, when you paint oil paints on top, actually last longer. It has been proven that oil paint on latex, like you'd have just on your canvases, actually will deteriorate. They do not bind. But the chemical agents of lead carbonate that you have as a base and your paint, oil paint that goes on top, actually forms a molecular structure that actually bonds to the surface much more of a permanent base. So if you are painting archival, you want to make sure that you're not painting on a gesso canvas, which most of the canvas that you buy today. You want to have a leaded oil-based surface. And you can buy these, and you can buy this canvas in a roll also. The reason why you would want to end up doing these yourself is that sometimes these only have 1 or 2 coats on it. And sometimes as you buy higher end Belgium linen, you get much finer finishes and quality. And so you may want to consider doing these yourself. They're a lot of work. And so what you would do with that is that you would take your masonite board and you would, if you notice, the masonite board is very porous. And you would want to create a surface that you can actually adhere the canvas to. So you would take rabbit skin glue, which is the traditional glue that we'd use. And you would want to seal this with rabbit skin glue.
Rabbit skin? Why do they use rabbit skin? They use the rabbit...
Yeah, it's actually shedded rabbit skin, and then they heat it with water, and it forms like a rubber cement. And so we'd seal that. Now, if you wanted to actually go a higher grade masonite board, instead of using your primer, then what you'd want to do is take the rabbit skin glue, you would wet a sponge, and you would take the rabbit skin glue mixture of heated rabbit skin glue and water, heat it up. As it heats, it melts. And then you could take a sponge or a brush and you can wet the seal, and you'd seal the masonite board. Then you would get your oil primer lead based paint. And this is very difficult to find nowadays, but you can, huh?
Can you even buy that stuff?
No, it's not allowed in California.
Just checking, okay.
Uh-oh,
Didn't
I
think
gotta
so.
record you now.
I'll import it from Oregon for you, but no, I don't know. They'll probably send it to you. I don't know what the restrictions are on that. But
Yeah, I'm gonna buy.
this is actually white lead carbonate in a can, and this is, I mean, if you just feel the can, it's solid lead. And if you open this can up, when you open it, you'll see that there's some oil on top. Now remember back in the days when you used to buy oil paints in a can, and you'd open it up and you'd always have oil on top of that, and then you would take a big stick and mix it. The thing is, you're not supposed to mix that oil into your paint, and nobody knew that.
Oh, really?
No, the reason why they put oil on top of the can like that is so that in the storage process that you don't get that film of paint that dries up on top. And so the oil that's on top of the can was supposed to be poured out carefully.
Never knew that.
And then you would add turpentine if you wanted to thin it up. But that oil was there to protect, because you notice whenever you used to open up the cans and you would paint, and then you close them up again and you'd have this hard cakey seal on top, kind of like what you get on custard if it sits in your refrigerator for a while. So when you open up this is Frederick's oil primer. There are a few other companies that produce this. When you pop it open, you want to carefully pour out the linseed oil. And then you want to take a big spoonful of this material out and put it on your palette. And then immediately pour that oil in on top. The oil, the lead-based oil that's inside of here, the actual product, actually dries fairly quickly. And so you don't want to have the air sitting on your material, otherwise it will start giving you those little flakes that you don't want. Then seal the can up. Then what you want to do is once you have the material on your palette, pretend this is a palette, not a canvas, you'll want to take turpentine and linseed oil, a 1-to-1 mixture, and you'll want to mix that with a palette knife. Really good. Okay? And you'll start softening this lead thing to something that's usable, because when it comes out of the can, it is so thick it doesn't move. Okay? Once it gets into a more looser substance that you can actually brush on, then on top of the masonite boards that you've sealed with rabbit skin glue, then you can go ahead and start painting that on top to get a nice finish. Now this is going to be a better finish than you get with the primer, okay, or with the gesso. You can remember gesso's latex. Latex and oil don't bind that well. So now you're going to put white lead on top of your rabbit skin glue. And you're going to let it sit. And you're going to let it dry. Now, yeah, I do. And the things, the finish makes all the difference in the world. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, this is just too much work. But you know, we're talking about upping your game in your painting. So if you really want to come up with some interesting finishes, or interesting finish in your finished painting, you want to start off with a really good foundation. Just like you build a house, you want to have a good, strong foundation. All of this pre-mixing, diddling around makes a difference at the end. It really does. So you brush that on the best that you can, and you let it sit for a couple of hours. Then you very lightly go over, while it's still kind of tacky and wet, you'll go over with a palette knife and smooth out sections. You might brush a few sections, and a lot of those wonderful textures that you see on really loose paintings that that you admire when you go to the museums and galleries, you go, wow, I like all that brushwork inside. Well, actually, a lot of that brushwork was done on the surface. So like they'll put a little layer of paint on with no brush strokes in it, and it's the brush strokes that are underneath that are actually showing through. So it gives you a really brushy finish. In the olden days, when you used to buy prints, and they wanted to make it look like an oil painting, they would actually brush in all this texture before they put the print on top of it, and all of those textures showed through. So what you're doing is you're actually breaking the surface on to give it that kind of painterly quality, and you can kind of skim over with a knife and create some interesting effects. You can, even like if you're planning on doing a still life, you can kind of leave the center a little smoother and then the outside a little more texture. What will happen is a lot of artists will spend and do a dozen of these or 24 of these, depending on how many panels they have, all at one time. And then when they come up and start doing a still life, they'll flip through all of their canvases and find one that feels like it would be good for that subject matter. And so they kind of say, well, that has kind of an interesting look. I want to put the painting on there. You'll actually see the painting on there and how it would look. Yes?
Is all on the rough side?
No, there's on the smooth side of the canvas. Yeah. Well, you can buy there. You masonite. You're not doing anything on the rough. Although you can seal up the rough side like this. Yeah. Now, like you paint very, very kind of texture and rough. You might try the rough side. It'd be like a rough canvas, but I'm more of a smooth kind of guy. So here what we do is we take all of the and then we take a palette knife and we smooth it. We get some brush strokes. We smooth it. It's an art in itself.
It sure is.
Yes. It's just kind of, it's like therapy.
I don't know about that.
It's So then you let that dry for a couple of weeks, and then it becomes a nice surface to paint on. So that's that. So, if you don't want to quite do that, the next step is to go with canvas. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your rabbit skin glue mixture that you heated on the stove with water. And I'm going to have all these recipes on my website. Actually, I have a new website called paintingfromnature.com. And so the information on the workshop in Oregon is there, and all my other workshops will be there, and also all of these techniques will be on there too. So paintingfromnature.com. And so, what you do now, don't interrupt me. You take the rabbit skin glue and you cover that and you seal it. You want to always make sure you seal the masonite board before you do anything to it. Now you can go buy canvas in a roll. You can buy cheap stuff at Aaron Brothers in a roll. They have a huge bin of it there. You can just roll it out, cut a piece off. You can put, then what you would want to do is you want to put anything like, even like Elmer's glue. And you can put Elmer's glue down, you can put the canvas on top. There's another thing called, and I wrote it down in my pocket. And I always forget it because it's not something I use. But it's called Miracle Muck glue. Miracle Muck. I don't know.
You found that.
Okay, so Miracle Muck, you can spear Miracle Muck and then put the canvas in on top of it. You want to roll it out so that it goes out to the edge to make sure you get no air bubbles, and then you can kind of trim it, do a hospital corners on it to seal it, however you want to do. The beauty of Miracle Muck, though, unlike Elmer's glue, is that if you do a painting, you decide, you know, I really like that, I don't like it on the canvas board, I want to transfer it, or if you did on the canvas board that isn't a high quality, you could take an iron and heat your painting up, the canvas up, and it will loosen the glue up. It's actually like a rabbit skin glue.
You set the iron right on.
You said, you put some paper or cloth over it and you heat it up. And the Miracle Muck will loosen up like rabbit skin glue will too. Now since you have rabbit skin glue also will heat up and you can heat it. In fact, old paintings are renovated oftentimes by heating the rabbit skin glue up, and the painting can actually be taken off the canvas and put on a brand new canvas. So sometimes when you see canvases that are just absolutely torn and you wonder how in the world did they fix those holes, they actually remove the paint off the canvas by heating the canvas up. The rabbit skin glue remelts, they pull the painting off, and they lay the whole painting back onto a fresh canvas. That's possible. You can't do that with gesso. Gesso canvases, once the primer's on, but when you work with rabbit skin glue and Miracle Muck, you can actually do that. Put the cotton canvas on top of it, you can seal it. Now, you could buy other canvases too, like leaded prime canvases and all of these different kinds. Now, instead of using masonite,
I can see Lucy doing that.
No
I
way.
can see Lucy doing that.
okay. So instead of masonite, well, oftentimes when you go into like a higher end canvas, this is an oil prime canvas, and this is done on birch. And this is kind of the old way of doing it. They're actually birch panels. Birch is very, very light. And if you compare the birch to the masonite, it's like half the weight. So these are canvases that I used to have made. They're birched on back, and you can buy this birch too at the hardware store instead of the masonite. The thing is, when you're working with the birch, you've got to be sure that you do anything you do with it, you have to seal with rabbit skin glue, because even if you use the primer or acrylic, all of the little fibers and stuff will show up. But this canvas here is a fine oil prime canvas, linen, Belgium linen, and it's applied on with rabbit skin glue or Miracle Muck, and the canvas is put on, all of the bubbles are taken out. But the problem is leaving the back exposed, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So this is one other way that you would go. Now, the reason why we started this whole conversation in the first place is that at the Plein Air Convention, I was introduced to a lady. She wasn't a vendor there, but man, I'm sure glad I ran into her. Wind River Arts. Yeah. Now, the big fad that artists are doing is that they're taking gator board. Gator board, not foam core. Okay, gator board is it's like a foam core, but it's harder. This is gator board. Now, the whole thing about painting outdoors is weight. And so a lot of artists like Clyde Asvik and Christensen, and they're worried about if they go outdoors for a couple of days to be carrying all of these boards and panels and stuff. So the new trendy way of going out with things is taking gator board, which is a very hard. If you go to Michael's and get foam core, you can just snap it. The gator board is almost like a board itself. It's very, very hard, but it's styrofoam. It's very dense styrofoam. Okay, and so what they do is they take the gator board, which has a very archival. There's no acids or anything into it. They seal it with Miracle Muck. And then they attach the canvas to. And this particular company, Wind River Arts, and I'll have that information on how to get a hold of them on my website too, paintingfromnature.com. The whole thing is that it's half the weight. It's really a beautiful product. It doesn't warp or bend. It's completely, since it's styrofoam, it doesn't absorb any moisture in the back or anything like that, so you don't have any rotten problems. And they put absolutely the finest of canvases on here. Now, I talked to the gal who owns the company, and they get Belgium linen that they hand prime themselves because they don't trust anybody. And these are tripled and quadrupled primed canvases, and it depends on the quality that you want to buy. Now, these are a little bit more on the pricier range. But, you know, what kind of price are you going to put onto something that's so awesome? I mean, I know people go out for a hamburger and fries and it costs $17. So, I mean, you know, and this is something your grandkids are going to inherit. And maybe, who knows, maybe the Louvre will have them. The whole point is that they're very archival. They will last forever. For some of you, that might not be a good thing.
Yeah.
So, no, every piece of canvas that you should do should be for a masterpiece. So anyway, so these are you know, and they have different things. I'm more of a traditional, look at how I dress. I'm a little more of a traditionalist. So I was like going, okay, gator, I haven't tried these yet, but I can tell, ooh, they're soft like a baby's bottom. And I'll leave you can look at it. But, yeah, you can touch this. Now, this is when I got excited, because as you know, I'm a traditionalist. Okay? They make a birch panel. And the birch panel, wait till you touch this. The birch panel, what's really amazing about this, unlike these old panels that are exposed like this, they found out that as long as moisture can get to the back of the panel, you're going to get rot. You're going to get bending. You're going to get rip. So they decided, you know, we have to seal this somehow. So some will seal with, you know, primer, you know, whatever. But look how this panel looks. It's like furniture. And I was like, So I talked to her about it, and she said what's really important that a lot of companies don't do is that they also seal the sides with varnish. And so it's completely sealed, completely waterproof. And I'll tell you, you know, when you're selling work at a high range, when you flip the painting and back and it looks like this,
Yeah, sure.
it definitely looks a lot better than that. Let's see, I'm going to spend $3,000 for that sketch. Turn it around, Martha, and let's see what you got. You know, it's like it makes a huge difference. So $7 more for a possible $1,000 at the end outcome because it looks professional, all of a sudden looks like a good deal. Not only that, wait till you touch this. This is like their very best panel that they have. Feel that. So anyway, so the gator boards are really awesome.
Feel this one?
Yeah, you could pass all these around. Did you gals get to touch? Yes. Okay. The gator boards are really awesome. The birch is amazing. Why would you buy these? Because it's a pain in the butt to do all of that. Why would you waste all of your studio time preparing panels and gesso and sanding and gluing and cutting when you could pick up the phone and go, Wind River Arts, could you send me 12 panels? Boom. They come to you, they're done. You don't have to worry about the archival problem. You don't have to worry about anything. They are absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Are you using these simply for outdoor, or are you using them in the studio?
I would probably use them in the studio for a lot of things too. I mean, you know, the whole reason why we use stretched canvas, the Mona Lisa is done on a wood panel. And a lot of the old art used to be done on a wood panel.
There was no other surface.
Well, no, they had, they had other surfaces. But wood is a really awesome thing. It does, the older woods would crack and break. But why do we use canvas? Because when you take a wood panel and you go 30 by 40, it becomes really heavy. And imagine taking that with a frame and trying to put it up on your wall. So the only reason why we use stretched canvases is so that it makes it light enough so you could put it up on the wall. And so that's why you have that. You can't put the night watch on a board. They don't make wood that big. If you can't put some of those big canvases up on the wall because they would weigh too much if they were done out of wood. So you could do small canvases like this in the studio all the time. But when you start getting into bigger pieces, and not only that, when you get into bigger pieces, you do have some warp issues and problems when you get. So for smaller panels, I would definitely, and especially when they're finished like that, why not? And there's just this wonderful sense that you're working with the very best products. That makes your work better.